one up, but then the other team gets two. Because last game, when CLG decided to pick Sona, they gave the Jarvan away to the other side. So now it's the choice, I think, for Vulcan here if they want Sona or if they want Jarvan. Or completely something else.
Wow, they also took the Shen. I'd be very surprised if they didn't take it as well. I don't think we've seen Link play Karthus. Karthus still there, so you're getting two globals if ManCloud takes it. But yeah, they have the Jarvan. Chaucer should take that. He can create more early game pressure with his favorite jungler right now.
I feel like Vulcan just threw a huge curveball at me right there, because I see how they took the Shen away from Hotshot, since that is one of Hotshot's fallbacks.
It was banned last game.
But there is still so much left. Like, the Jarvan and the Sona are still available here, and they're actually just going for Thresh instead. So, mind blown. These guys have practiced enough Thresh at this point that it's the #1 pick for both of these teams, even though, coming into this, almost all of Aphromoo and Bloodwater's successful games were on Sona and Lulu, but they're going for Thresh in almost all situations.
I think mind blown is the right way to say it, because it was the support last time for them, but it was Aphromoo Sona. You know, you still get on Thresh. We know that just as good, but you don't get the fight initiation. You have to put yourself in there. Yeah, you get the pull, right? But you're going to get one guy instead of an entire team.
And a lot of that could have had to do with what Prawley actually mentioned when I asked him what the turning point in the game was. He was like, the Thresh hooks, because they kept landing on Doublelift when the ganks were approaching.
That's true.
And they created the kills for him. So CLG might just be saying, we want the Thresh hooks this time, and Doublelift is just going to turn into Zuna and just explode on the enemy team. Even though they're getting the majority of the composition they had last time. They got the Karthus again. Again, they've picked Mandatory Cloud's lane into whatever CLG wants to throw at it. And I think that's potentially dangerous, again.
We really don't see the jungler for Vulcan yet either. You'd see that the second or third pick here, but they're saving it out, maybe really to see what they can crowd control all the lanes with, control all the lanes with.
And I just blah, blah, blah. I don't know, man. The Twitch actually comes out instead of Vayne, so the Vayne Tristana lane didn't work for them last time. They have a lot of opportunities here, because Hotshot will get to pick the last pick, whatever lane he wants to go for.
Right.
Doublelift's Twitch will have fairly good protection already, just because the Orianna shield will be able to get thrown onto him if he sees necessary. And I'm not sure what Vulcan's going to be coming back at them with.
Absolutely, have no idea. We have seen Alistar in the lineup for CLG here before.
And the situation, though, for Vulcan is this: what is the third jungler here for Xmithie? Because he played some Lee Sin when he had to pick a third jungle. He's played some Hecarim when he's had to pick his third jungle. Obviously, I'm saying his first two are Nasus and Jarvan already, so I don't know what they're going for with that last one.
I think I said Alistar for CLG. I meant for Vulcan here, but it looks like Bloodwater may lock it in. They're really going to go for that. They're just trying to kick people back into the engagement. They have the crescendo. This is maybe tons of shield team.
Yeah, so what happens here is it's just another one of those gank the Zuna lane again and again. And I think this is a jungle Lee Sin Xmithie, if I had to guess. And he's actually pretty good at it. The week where they went 3-0, he played Hecarim and Lee Sin a couple times. And they're actually running that with an Alistar lane for the extra setup. It might work in this situation. I mean, Bloodwater did get the Sona. They just want the Lee Sin. I mean, they just saw Chaucer's Lee Sin be extremely ineffective, and they're almost just like throwing down the gauntlet here and saying, we're just going to have it work for us. This is not the same level of late game awesomeness that they had last time. Instead, there's actually a lot more late game on CLG, so Vulcan will have to win this one early.
That is true. It's odd. I'm still kind of in the curveball situation phase, but to see this come out, Xmithie, and on a jungler, like you said, doesn't scale as far into the late game as we're going to see Jarvan scaling. And Hotshot, GG, Psycho Sid are going to kind of match up in that lane if they choose to swap it. However, that's going to be big as well. Maybe CLG can use the Thresh hooks to their advantage this time.
It might just be a completely different game. The first game, they have to pretend like it didn't happen, actually. So even though Vulcan will want to keep the confidence going, they can't pull off the same moves they did in the first one, because CLG might be able to come back at them. They still have to worry about the teleport malfight. The solo lanes for CLG are exactly the same. Mandatory Cloud and Link had a happy farm, fun time matchup where they just kind of farmed with each other last time. They get to do that again. But the rest of the game has to go completely different for CLG, and they may have picked the composition to do it.
So with these junglers being picked out, can Xmithie be as aggressive as he wants to be still as he could last time? Or is he just going to have to focus on the lanes?
I think he has to be almost more aggressive than he was last time.
All right.
Because the impetus is on Lee Sin to make things happen. I've seen some junglers in the OGN start with a red elixir that they want to get so aggressive early. They don't even care about the Butcher's Blade to clear the jungle. They just get a buff, and they go fight people. And that's essentially what Xmithy might have to turn himself into on Lee Sin.
Wanting to draw blood from the first few seconds of the game. There they are, pitted face to face. Vulcan versus Counterlogic Gaming, game 2 here of our best of 3. Riven Jap bringing you this game live from Los Angeles as we get underway with our second playoff best of 3 of the week.
And no red elixir start for Xmithy,
Yeah.
but he did go for the Butcher's Blade and 5 health potions, and he needs to get aggressive very early on.
We'll see where they decide to push. It does not look like Vulcan's going to their ways of pressuring any of the tri-bushes as they did in previous weeks. We'll have to see if the lane swaps come out as well. CLG does like to swap the lanes, as we see Vulcan also last time. First time these teams met, CLG pulled what we saw in the first game between Dig and GGU, those AD and supports in mid. But we've yet to see that from them yet.
And it may be in CLG's best interest to try and pull off a lane swap, just because they know how it didn't go well for them last game. Last game, they essentially really just opted in straight up to that 2v2 lane, because a lot of times it is the purple side team that'll want to do the lane swap because they have access to the double golems.
Right.
And the fact that CLG sent 2 up there, regardless, was saying, we want to fight you 2v2 because we are confident in our ability, and these are the lanes we want. It didn't work out for them, and this time, it looks like it's actually kind of Vulcan saying, we're not going to do the hard opt-in. Instead, we're going for what I'd almost like to call the default LCS lanes.
And this is kind of a different game for the junglers altogether, right? You get your 2v1 lane to gank. Are you good at 3v2 ganks when you go into the other AD support, or are you better at the 2v or the 3v1s when you go in on the single guy?
These situations do play out much differently.
Yeah.
Because the 2v1 lanes have a lot more wards down. So if you try to do a 2v2 gank, you have to be a lot more creative. And then you also have to worry about the 3v1 tower dives that we've seen so much of this season, where essentially the one person has to run away or hope he gets 2 people to support. Otherwise, he's at huge risk of just getting dove. A lot of times they end up just giving up their turret instead. Maybe we'll see something similar this game, because it is looking like they're going to be doing those matchups, and Hotshot has a ton of experience in 1v2 lanes.
It looks like they're all helping on the experience here so they can get safe. Not safe in those lanes, just not all in, if you will. Xmithy going to get some help there on the red. He goes ahead and smites that one away, actually, so no fast one for him. And Mandatory Cloud, once again, taking the blue.
Same move that Vulcan pulled in the last game. They want Mandatory Cloud to get that early edge on Link in the mid lane. That's one of the reasons, actually, Mandatory Cloud was able to out-farm Link in the last game. Link out-farms everyone, I said this before, everyone in the LCS except for Mandatory Cloud, as is what happened last game as well.
Well, man, I don't know when the last time we saw a Boots pot start was, but shout out to Link for the Boots pot start.
And it actually makes sense against Karthus, because move speed is more important than ever when you're trying to dodge Karthus Qs, especially with the blue buff. So last game he wasn't necessarily having to dodge constantly because, well, he didn't expect to have to dodge constantly, because who gives Karthus blue buff at level 1? But they actually called it this time, and that's why he started with Boots.
This is really treacherous in mid lane for Link. Chaucer knows he has to create pressure in other lanes. He starts to move.
There's a ward he's walking through. Psycho Sid sees it. He's already falling back. So at this point, he's going to wait as long as possible, because he knows that's where Chauster walked, and when Chauster shows, he's essentially going to have to give this up.
Oh man, see, would they want this turret right now?
They're going to take as much turret damage as they can, as long as it's safe, but they have to worry about the roam coming in from Mandatory Cloud and Xmithy on the jungle. Link is passively farming in his turret, so there's the opportunity for Psycho Sid to still be able to get turret damage.
There's way more dictating happening here in this one by CLG, but Smithy's there. They're going to be able to counter this one. Good flashes to get out of the crowd control that was there. It wasn't much after the taunt. I think Psycho Sid could have waited a little bit longer on that.
That's that 3-man roam, counter roam almost. They knew that 2 people wasn't enough to hold turrets, because they've experienced that earlier on in the LCS season. They knew they'd still get dove, so they roamed up Mandatory Cloud. That's actually, even though they stopped the push for Vulcan, that is good for CLG, because 2 Vulcan flashes were burned, and Link got the all-important shove in the mid lane, which will give him a slight experience edge on Mandatory Cloud.
Hotshot forced to chug his potions, but he knows he's a little bit safer down bottom with all the pressure happening top, so he can go for those last few bits of CS. He still has teleport. He'll make it back to the lane. Nice and easy. He goes for the flask, actually, lately, instead of that Doran shield right away.
Really going for a lot of potions. So he started with like 8 or 9 potions, and then he just went for the super potion. And he's just going for experience in this lane. That's what that tells me, because he's dumped almost 700 or 800 gold into potions at the start of the game. He's really just worried about his teleport ult at this point.
So again, CLG now forcing pressure on all the lanes, and this is kind of going to pressure Xmithy to make more moves than usual, right?
And Xmithy hasn't been able to make the moves yet as Link pressures.
Oh man, there's the Ignite down. It's going to be a few more hits. He gets the last ball queue down. First blood going to Link.
And he got the blue buff, which is so important. There was a couple seconds left on Mandatory Cloud's blue buff after he got it at level 1, and that is huge for Link.
And you can see ManCloud's flash is down quite a bit ago, so Link had planned this engagement for a little while.
It's because of the play that Mandatory Cloud tried to make top where he burned the flash. So it just allowed Link to aggress. Adding on top of that, he started with the boots, so he knew if he got Mandatory Cloud into a bad situation, he could run him down, and that was just excellent play by Link.
Really a great job. Link, knowing ManCloud roams first, he's going to take advantage of it somehow. Turret damage good on the bottom. It looks like they could be able to get some more, but still, none has dropped yet, and it's going to be Chowster coming down to help and kind of tax out the lane for Hot Shot.
I actually think this is really good sharing by CLG. You get a boost of experience, essentially, if you share lane XP with someone else. More map experience is actually created for them, so Chowster in the past has fallen behind a little bit, and sharing that experience will allow his brawling potential against Xmithy to be higher.
We'll have to see as ManCloud comes back to lane now, trying to stack his tier. Sork boots and a Doran's ring already for Link. This bottom turret still getting some good aggression. Chowster goes flag toss onto Zuna. Double lift, sneak in the backside. Toxic Flash is down. That rocket jump to safety.
So the last game, CLG actually got shut out entirely on turrets, and this game they decided to swap the two-person lane back down bottom before they'd be able to finish off the turret. So CLG is actually trying to extend the gold flow in this game and make the laning phase longer because they don't want it to break down. That's why they're swapping the lanes this early before the turrets go down.
And that's pretty smart, right? When you're fighting against an AoE team, you want to get the advantage in lane before you dive into that fight.
I think that CLG has the late game advantage in this one, even though they're against a Karthus and Tristana. Twitch Orianna Malphite is probably a little bit more, and that would be why CLG's decided to make this. Both of these guys are late game teams. They both have fairly late game team comps, but that's just the call that CLG decided to make.
Looks like a little tit for tat back in the top lane there. ManCloud, you can see how much he's forced off of mid lane now. Just the positioning of the Q from Link is really keeping him away from CS. He's getting him with the Qs, though. Just a few here and there.
He's just got to be passive as much as possible, and it's tough now because he gave the blue buff up to Link.
Ooh, there's some flashes going down in the bottom lane. Aphromoo trying to get the flash Q down. Bloodwater forced to flash as well for support flash there.
So he was trying to pull off the charge up the Q and then flash in for a point-blank range death sentence. Bloodwater saw it coming and burned a flash of his own because they were very scared about giving double lift that kill.
It looks like they are going to want to keep tabs on this blue buff as well. They know he took it right away. It's going to be about that 7-minute time jet, and they have eyes all over it. Hot shots even coming down to party.
And this is not something that Vulcan can contest happily. So Chowster using that experience a little bit earlier to make sure he has the power to get that. They refreshed the blue buff onto Link, and that's big-time power for CLG because even though Mandatory Cloud does have that Tear of the Goddess, the ultimate cooldown is kind of the all-important thing. Karthus' rank 1 ultimate cooldown without the blue buff is 192 seconds right now, so it definitely takes the pressure down on the side lanes by denying those blue buffs.
And usually you get a blue buff and then it's down and then you have to wait for it, but Link has gotten 2 consistently. That's got to hurt even more against your opponent.
It really hurts Mandatory Cloud. It's just constant pressure for Link. It's essentially 8 minutes of being able to spam his spells completely free, and because they were able to steal that, they actually gave their own blue buff to Chowster, who is now going to be able to clear the jungle faster and hopefully get a bit of an edge in this one.
You know what this is leading to as I look at Mandatory Cloud is he has to use all of those lay waste to farm. His mana's low. He's not able to Rec Room as much as he was last game. He hasn't even created pressure with it yet.
And he's not able to harass Link down either, because when he had the blue buff, he could use the Skittles to farm and harass, but now Link is getting to free farm as well. It's actually not hurting him that much, as you can see 75 to 76 in that lane. They're both
It's a good thing he got a tier.
But it's a good thing he got that tier, and it's a good thing he's a good enough player to avoid Link's harass with no defensive items whatsoever on Karthus.
Yeah, like you said, I'm going to be 8 minutes soon with a blue buff, and he's been able to dodge all of that. Losing out, do a little bit of flash mind games that we saw Link take him out there for the first blood. And it's been the only blood as both teams here kind of playing on the edge of their seat for their playoff match. The second in the best of 3, as we said. Vulcan up 1 game so far here at 9 minutes.
The lanes are a lot closer this time, so the ganks haven't necessarily pulled off in successful ways. Xmithy hasn't been able to create much early pressure on Lee Sin, and he's actually camping down in this bottom lane trying to sit in a pink ward. He might be getting those happy feet of his own because he doesn't know exactly where he's going to be wanting to fly in, and they don't really know if they're going to be jumping in to a counter gank.
Chowster just on the edge. They may try to come in on this. Looks like he's actually gathered with Aphromoo here before they go in.
And the interesting thing here is Vulcan has a very low turret that they might be trying to pressure down on. So they're hoping that CLG gets a little bit aggressive. This is a very mind-gaming situation because both teams sense that there's probably a third person here, but neither team knows for sure.
So Mandatory Cloud has sectioned himself off of Link in middle, so the Requiem could come in. It doesn't look like he's farming the Wraiths either. No, his mana is going down, so he's farming it out. They're not going to engage, though. They kind of just back off of this.
Chelsea did decide to show, though. He wanted to share a little bit of experience down there to make up for his trouble, and now he might try one of those creative ganks through the wall, but no, he's just dancing around. Even though he's got the double buffs, he hasn't used too much of that blue buff he was able to get for himself to create anything happening.
I'd say it's going to happen soon. Hotshot just back. The teleport's off. All the ults are there to be used. See if they get a ward on Dragon here soon, if they can relieve some of the pressure in the bottom lane. But Vulcan looks to be kind of roaming here.
And this time, though, for CLG, with the teleport on Hotshot, doesn't help them as much because Psycho Sid can just match it with a Stand United of his own. It's not that Aurelia versus Malphite matchup at all, so they're probably going to continue to farm out this top lane, split push each other, and then show up for the fights. Here we go, though. As you said, soon it might be coming. Chester went full circle, and he's behind Vulcan.
So showing himself in the front, they made them feel quite safe here. They're going to show in the back, and they say, wait, we've been here for quite a while. It's going to be knocked out there. The Buster shot going on to Chowster. Bloodwater gets hooked in. The Requiem comes in to turn the fight around. You can see it changes CLG's mind for a second. They only get the kill onto Bloodwater.
Didn't turn around much of the fight, and even though the Shen tried to come in, Hotshot interrupted it with his unstoppable force over in the top lane, so that was the well-executed gank by Chowster, and it burned the Requiem from Mandatory Cloud, so huge wins across the board there for CLG.
Let's see what kind of items are coming in. 10 minutes, or 11 minutes into the game, I should say. The Giant's Belt onto Psycho Sid, and the Negatron Cloak for Hotshot GG. Looks like they're going to kind of have to itemize differently here. Oh, double lift, taking some big damage, doing a yelling in the background.
Smithy just came in from the abyss there, surprising everyone and just kicking Doublelift out of the game. He's gone. He's dead right there. Even though he came back to lane with the BF sword, so Doublelift was feeling very confident there, knowing Zuna was just on that Doran's Blade, but Smithy made him pay.
That was crazy. Happened so quick. We almost didn't get there in time to see the kill. Vulcan's starting to make moves. They pull one kill here to kill that deficit that they have. It's still 1.5 thousand gold, or 500 gold actually only in the lead for CLG.
And they got to be real careful here because Psycho Sid's ultimate is not up and Hotshot's teleport is. So even though Unstoppable Force isn't there, they could not risk Hotshot teleporting in there and creating a 5v4 at the Baron Pit for Vulcan. So they pulled them down a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're just going to go back farming, which is a shame because they have littered wards down by the Dragon.
And you can tell Mandatory Cloud not going to be doing any roaming this game. No boots yet, went for Catalyst, knows he has to stay in lane. The blue buffs hurting pretty bad against him now.
And it's just a farm off. He's been able to keep up, which is a testament to himself. He's farming these lanes, which is actually making more pressure on Smithy to make something happen. He's the one who's going Sightstone in this situation and trying to make stuff happen. That's one of the reasons there's more wards around the pit as Smithy tries to make a play, because they have the double Sightstones on Vulcan as well. But they should try to make something happen with it because they are sacrificing teamfight auras for those double Sightstones, and they have to make positional plays instead of straight-up brawl plays.
So we will, looks like so far, the Infinity Edge for Zuna, Doublelift continues to finish that as he usually would on a Twitch. They're going for Dragon here, and that's going to help. See how much money they have. They
know that Zuna and Bloodwater had just went back to base, so they decided to force this one. Also, Link was saying Mandatory Cloud just went to get blue guys. That means there's probably no jungler or Karthus there, which means you have a free shot at the Dragon, and they just took it.
So CLG already playing a different game here. They've put themselves in the lead, which they did not have at all last game. Like we said, within these games, when CLG wavers the lead, they are not the one to take it. So we'll have to see if they can keep this one in their hands right now. Just about 2,000 gold as they look to pressure the mid-turret.
CLG is very good at playing with the lead.
Whoa, Mandatory Cloud, the fast finger flash, and he gets himself out of an unstoppable force.
It's a good thing that he was able to twitch that flash, but they trade the mid-turret for the top turret, and to get back to that point you're talking about earlier, CLG is very good at playing with the lead. In this situation, Doublelift hasn't been killed a bunch, so he is in a pretty good situation. He has been farming, a little bit out-farmed by Zuna, but that's an acceptable margin for CLG right now. The big thing is Link is going strong. They're up in kills. They're up in total gold. When CLG plays with this lead, they actually don't make that many mistakes to throw.
I think we have everybody gathering in middle here. We have seen the Dragon go down so far. That gold lead still in favor of CLG just a little bit as we come up to 15 minutes. Hotshot looking to expend the last amounts of his mana bar here. Just taking a bit of damage from Psycho Sid.
And that is a lot of attrition that's been applied to Hotshot there. either Psycho Sid's going to get a lot of damage at his turret here, or Hotshot's going to have to burn his teleport to get back to that top lane, because he's completely harassed him down there, and surprisingly, Psycho Sid's actually not trying to force that lane to the turret super fast.
CLG putting themselves in a good position, no matter how much they know it or not. All the ultimates right now for Vulcan are up, and they would really be looking to make a move. Requiem, Stand United, and Crescendo, but they're not even in that position. They are going to try something here in mid, but Link sees it.
If that Wall of Pain would have landed, it would have made Xsmithy's skill shot much easier onto Link, but because it was a little bit misplaced and Link smelled it coming, he was able to just back out of the area. So many wards are littering the map for Vulcan just because of their double Sightstone. They're actually very impervious to Chouster's gank in these situations. Chouster needs to recognize this and just farm up.
Both of the junglers with 1 assist. AD carries with a kill, and it's going to be Link with that 1 kill right now over ManCloud, and that's the kill they got 1v1 in mid. Let's see where the blue buffs still stand for those guys. Nothing actually for them right now, and it looks like they're going back to possibly get theirs if it pops up soon on CLG's side. It's
actually getting to the point for these guys because of their itemization that they don't necessarily need the blue buff to keep it up. Link with the Athene's Unholy Grail, huge amounts of mana regen, and Mandatory Cloud going with the Tear of the Goddess Rod of Ages builds for when he gets his Seraph's Embrace to just have a huge amount of ability power just from the mana bonus of the Seraph's Embrace, plus just a huge shield he's going to be able to activate as well.
So we see the Aegis trying to come out here for Chouster. The Lantern going, whoa, kick back and forth. Xsmithy finds himself in the middle of a fight. Psycho Sid comes well. Stand United comes in. Hotshot teleporting down to the fight and trying to get with his team. It's going to be Karthus in middle, so Mandatory Cloud not going to enter this fight as CLG starts to push Vulcan out of the fight. Xsmithy very low here, but they keep
Link's
turning.
behind them.
Link coming in from the backside. Orianna looks to wreak havoc on the back of these guys. Psycho Sid in a 3v1, almost gets the kill. ManCloud coming onto the back. It's going to be Smithy going down. Link finally gets the ball in for the double kill, looking for the triple kill on the Q move, and he finds himself a hell of a lot of gold coming down on the late side of the fight.
It's not often you see the mid lane matchup that isn't Karthus get to the bottom lane first. So Link ran for that as soon as they saw the fight starting to come. Everyone arrived at that fight as quickly as they could. Mandatory Cloud was far behind Link because he didn't actually want to get caught partway through and just get soloed by Link, so he was lagging behind substantially because Link beat him to the punch at the start. Then when he came from behind, crazy chaotic fight by the way, he was able to just completely clean up, and once Vulcan saw the Orianna behind them, they kind of had to overcommit because they knew there was no escape, and it just all worked out for CLG in the end.
That was great positioning. I definitely put it in Vulcan's favor there. I said they had the Crescendo, they had the Requiem, they had the Stand United. Well played by Chronologic Gaming to find the way in and out of that fight. They pick up some good gold lead, and they pick up a few kills for themselves there. Mainly Link on that triple kill, a needlessly large rod in his pocket. On top of that, Athene's now Hotshot starting to recipe together his favorite items.
And you can't really fault Vulcan for trying that fight too much. They didn't know that Link was going to be able to sneak down there. They thought that that gank was going to pull out. They realized that Hotshot would probably teleport in. They expected the counter gank there, but they knew they had the Stand United. So they were just ready to engage in a 4v4 because they thought they had the edge, but they were wrong.
So when you find out you don't have the edge, does it go back to we can semi-farm now and we'll find somebody out, don't engage a 5-on-5?
Well, that's the question for Vulcan at this point, because that one didn't work. And with a Lee Sin composition, you don't necessarily want to engage in those 5v5s. You want to get the positional battles won. And the forcing by CLG is just overwhelming. This might be a fight that they would want to take, though.
Smithy trying to get around. They almost get the smite on, trying to get the safeguard in, but it's not going to happen. They transfer it over once again.
So total control by Link there. 4-0-0 on Orianna. Still not out farming Mandatory Cloud, but getting more and more powerful by the second.
They don't need 7 wards to take it.
No, they can just get the blue buff when they want with their overwhelming strength.
Do it when they want. So we got pings in the bottom lane. Link, I've said last game, he's making me a liar now. I said ManCloud roams before Link. Link all over the map, so omnipresent this game. Psycho Sid has the aggression up top, so it looks like they're trying to pressure every lane right now as CLG dictates these lanes.
And they really have the pressure because even though that was a 2-man gank top, there's 3 people bottom and there's no answer in the mid lane for Vulcan to try to put any pressure back at them. So that is a free bottom lane turret for CLG.
That's just the thing, that they are kind of in the mid lane and they aren't pressuring it. They watch those turrets go down, they're finally going to get that wave pushed.
And this is actually a bit of a race here. So there's 3 people for CLG in the bottom and 4 for Vulcan in the mid lane. But CLG has the turret priority here. They are pushing more important turrets right now than Vulcan.
Oh, they just backed off of mid. They may be able to get it down there. No, Trist is still there. Looked like a minion with the shield on. Picture in picture getting the best of me. So we have 20 minutes on this. 6-2 here, and it's about 4,000 gold lead right now in favor of Counter Logic Gaming. 3-2 in turrets. So they've gotten those this game.
At least they were able to trade one turret for a turret there. They went back at the right time, because if they would have traded 2 turrets, that would have exposed their inhibitor. And CLG's just deciding to pull back for this Dragon. But this, if Vulcan gets here fast enough, could be a fight. But CLG burned that down so fast.
They are able to get the smite down. That goes to Chowster. They get themselves safely to back out of this one. The Aegis is finally finished. They can really thwart off a lot of that Requiem damage as they huddle around Chowster as these fights go down.
This is really crazy, Riv, because the last game was so one-sided, and CLG seems to have regrouped very well off of that. This is not the same one-sided flip that we would have previously seen, but CLG looks very in control this game. They have the Runic Bulwark already at 20 minutes, and Xmithy went for the Sightstone there on Lee Sin, so the auras in teamfights are just not even comparable. Doublelift is farming up a Storm on Twitch, even though he's died 2 times, and most importantly, Link has had the best of Mandatory Cloud this game with 4-0-0 on Orianna.
He has, and somehow we keep saying this for each person, but he stayed on top in CS, 223 to 209 right now, without blue buffs all game, with that tier stacking up. So like you said, they built for the mana regen, because some of them didn't have it.
It's a really interesting matchup watching Mandatory Cloud and Link just farm at each other, because they are just so good at killing minions. It sounds foolish, but they're really, really good at farming, and no matter really what the situation is, they're able to get all the creeps.
And we see Xmithy, eyes on Xmithy. Oh no, the pinch coming in, he tries to get himself out of the safeguard of the minion. Oh, what? Oh, he flashed that too. Pulling out all the stops, Houdini.
That was a really hard flash too, because that was a close range unstoppable force, and that was great reaction, but all the reaction in the world doesn't help the 4 people beating down their turret, and that's another good move by CLG, able to take that one.
Quite bittersweet. Yes, indeed, he did live, but they lose that global gold to the team. 32,009, we'll say 33,000 now to 28,000. So that gold lead is growing in favor of Counterlogic Gaming. We'll hit the point again that when they have the lead, they can carry the momentum, and they usually don't falter from here on out.
They got the auras too. That's another one of the reasons I think they can take these games in such control, is because they just make sure that they win team fights while already going into games with a split pushing strategy. So one of the big things you try to do against a split push team is just create team fights. But because CLG builds so strongly for team fights, they kind of set up one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations for the enemy team, and that's what we're trying to see right here with Vulcan.
Chowster getting hit up a little bit. Xmithy feels like he can put some damage down, but he's really done nothing using that whole energy bar. So good deterrent there, I guess, an invade.
You were right. He didn't do anything.
No.
That was one of those 0 damage situations for Chowster. He popped his Golden Aegis shield. He had a Orianna ball on his head, since there's 693 ability power coming out of Link. That shield is shielding for 300 plus. That just, Smithy couldn't touch him.
These guys, I was going to say they're burning each other, but I don't know. Psycho, you are sitting on top of a Sunfire cape right now, and that's going to hurt.
And there was a Twitch in approach too, which he needed to run away from. So he kind of had he had the advantage on Hotshot, but he was like, you know what? I feel very unsafe right now.
Why are you standing still, attacking me? 23 minutes in, the mind games continue between these two teams. Looks like they find Psycho Sid, so the Unstoppable Force was used there, the taunt run, the flash for the engage, and it looks like Spray and Pray is also used here. They're spending a lot, and it's going to be a lot of focus on Baron. No, the teleport stand united to go to Karthus. They're going to go for Baron.
So now they have the Karthus on the Baron. Hotshot has his teleport as well, but there is absolutely no double lift here. This is the move that Vulcan would have to make something happen.
Oh, flash crescendo from Bloodwater. They say, we don't want Baron, we want the blood. They're going to go for the kills. Link is the focus. Chowster comes into the fight, locks it down. Hotshot's there for the teleport as well. He says, I can travel the map as well. There's a Requiem coming down. CLG turns this one of the heads of Vulcan as they try to pull out the magic tricks.
I have to applaud Vulcan for trying to make that play. Xmithy.
Oh, Karate Kid coming in big for a kill, but it's going to be Link picking up another one, 6-0-2 on the day.
And now the Baron might get turned around on Vulcan. That was a smart move trying to pull it off, but CLG was ready for that one. I mean, the teleport was well timed. Link landed a awesome crescendo to stop Mandatory Cloud from really getting in on that fight, and now CLG may acquire this Baron and put a seal on this game.
Looks like they're going to be able to get a Baron. Like I said, they don't make too many mistakes from here on out. The re-engagement onto Vulcan was crisp, clean, and it got Link another kill. He now sits with Baron and his team strong. Looks like they're starting to take the CS lead as well in every lane but the 80 carries.
What an awesome playoffs we have here already.
Absolutely.
Good Game University coming out 2-1 against Dignitas miraculously. Vulcan really just showing up super hard in the first game against one of the most experienced teams in the world as far as League of Legends goes, or at least some of the most experienced players. And now seeing CLG bounce back so strong in the second game, potentially forcing a game 3.
You know, displacement, moving, locking off a champion is such an underrated thing in League of Legends. We see Cataclysm can help and hurt a team. Shockwave changed fights for Jinte last game in GGU, and it's changing fights for CLG here as well.
And I think we're really seeing these teams got to put, wow, as Hotshot goes in for Zuna, that's a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Zuna's probably not going to be too happy here. He's going to get punched in the face by Rock. He does have help from McSmithy, but that's not much. It's just going to be that rage backwards. Gets the kick. They're going to be good. That's Buster Shot. That's 2 ults to save him from the Rock.
Yeah, and Hotshot is a Rock. He's not taking any damage. Yes, they all knocked him away. Now they have to run away from him, and CLG's using the advantage to just get down the middle turret.
You can tell Hotshot's happy. He's in stream mode at home. He's bouncing up and down in his chair, knocking his knees together like he usually does. He is pretty much knows he can mess with anybody here. Oh, the Shockwave just missing on that dive in.
It is unfortunate that Shockwave missed, but they still got what they came for. Baron Buff's regenning everyone up. They've now gotten the 5 turrets, and to get back to what happened before Hotshot showed how rocky he was, is it tells you the value these teams put on Jarvan.
Yep.
Because when xSmithy had it, he was controlling. He got those 5-man ults off, and now when Chouster has it, he is dictating this game and creating fights in the right spots.
They have a bit of wave clear here. Obviously, if you keep ManCloud and Zuna in the front, but that's scary wave clear. That's the initiation that Hotshot GG wants. So once they get up to these turrets, they're going to be able to poke a lot of damage.
And Hotshot's got the build to be able to both dive turrets and also survive in the Defile. He's got that 40% CDR from the Spirit Visage? Yeah, Spirit Visage.
Yeah.
And the Frozen Heart. And it's just a matter of, right now, Vulcan does not have the tools to kill a Hotshot.
Seraph's Embrace coming out from Mandatory Cloud, so he is going for that Seeker's next. Looking to keep himself alive. And it still becomes situational for zombie or not zombie Karthus this late in the game.
At this point in the game, it is sit back, Karthus, and hope they dive you, because you need your Defile and the turret to essentially get stuff done, and they need to keep Zuna alive as well for the end of fights. So they're really just hoping CLG does something foolish so that the Defile can just do its work. If he dives in too far, CLG will probably just go right through him, because Chouster, Hotshot can fly through, Link will be able to shockwave whatever he wants, and they'll be positioned properly in that situation.
So 27 minutes in here, it is 10-3 right now. Chronologic Gaming looking to take game 2. They do not want to give Vulcan this sweep. We're going to see what they can do here at their first turret aggression in the base.
So 5 turrets down already. Baron Buff's got about a minute left. Hotshot just does not take damage from the turret, and it's a matter of CLG just manning up and going for it, because I think they could do it on the next wave.
They got a little bit of damage onto that one. And by a little bit, I mean a little bit of nothing.
Yeah.
We'll see what they can do. A lot of O's in that middle column for CLG. They've only gone down 3 times, and it's been the AD and the support. They go to dive in. Mandatory Cloud gets locked up here. Seraph's Embrace right away, and they're going to deter that fight. They get that lockdown. They're trying to figure out what they can blow on the cooldown side of Vulcan here.
There they go.
That's going to be a lock. And the Zuna gets, oh my gosh, he doesn't even get a chance to jump out of that. xSmithy pushed back. Mandatory Cloud looking for the defensive run. Defensive flashes all over the place. Nothing used in aggression. And CLG has eyes on the inhibitor.
I really like how Hotshot made sure the turret stayed on him that entire time, because he's actually the only one on the team to build an armor item. The only other armor is part of the runic bulwark that Chouster has. No one else has any of it, so he was the turret tank. He essentially nullified the turret. He is a human ohm wrecker. He turned it off because all it was doing is hitting him, and they're able to burn the Shen ult, get the inhibitor, and get out with no losses.
We'll see what they can do as they continue to push here. Psycho Sid called off his stand, and he kept going for the turrets in that top lane so he could get his team some global gold and kind of stop the bleeding, stave off the bleeding a little bit that CLG's been putting on here and wrap that one up. We're going to see this chase again. Hotshot just being a nuisance in the top lane.
And this is the situation where they know that Psycho Sid's Shen ult is down, but Hotshot's teleport is up, so they can force the... Right now, since Mandatory Cloud is up there, 5v3 in the bottom if Hotshot goes.
This is going to be real big. Hotshot uses Unstoppable Force to get out. They don't have a wave, so they kind of plan this one good. But like I said, that wave clear, siege clear is not there for them. Hotshot's going to try to force off as much as he can. Shockwave comes out. xSmithy is all locked up there. They get a good lockdown. Zuna is face-to-face with Aphromoo. And you can see Hotshot is still messing with Mandatory Cloud in that top area. He gets out once again from the fight, forced to flash out of that engagement. The inhibitor is now going down. Hotshot gives up in the fight. Mandatory Cloud forced to back as well. The inhibitor is going to go down.
That was awesome stuff by CLG. Just the distraction from Hotshot in that one, keeping the attention of Mandatory Cloud just long enough to flash away from the Skittle that would have killed them, keeping enough health so that the Requiem wouldn't have killed them either, and then allowing CLG to pick up their second inhibitor.
More health being picked up here by Psycho Sid. He wants to try and get the Randuin's Omen in as well. Hotshot was able to pick up that Giant's Belt, so we're getting quite tanky here in the end of the game. You can see Link stretching out, getting his neck all stretched as they are going for possibly a final engagement and a push for Vulcan to Game 3.
And this is really good growing opportunity for CLG here because Link has been the one that's really carried this game. Everyone always talks about kind of Double Lift being that threat, but this game Link really stepped up. He was able to get as many kills as possible, and he's the threat, and it's allowed Double Lift to get kills because Vulcan put such a focus on trying to shut down Double Lift that it allowed Link to shine.
This is a scary spot. There are summoners down all over the place for Vulcan here. Flash and Ignite for Mandatory Cloud. Teleport is still up for Hotshot, so he can split push that top lane, and they can choose to just pressure an open inhibitor here. Those doors have been knocked down, and they look to keep him down.
And now with 2 inhibitors down, like you said, the super minions will be arriving at the base very quickly. Very difficult to defend those third inhibitors, especially with the Baron coming up very soon. So CLG has many options open here. If they just kind of mess around with Vulcan near the Baron pit, they can either get a free Baron or a free base, whichever they choose.
And it looks like all the CS about to be soaked up by Vulcan, as Counter Logic could have a free Baron here. 7 seconds until it comes up. There are really no wards Vulcan can see up until their wolves are up to their wolves, I should say. Past that, it's all a light bright for CLG.
Vulcan hasn't been allowed into that jungle for quite some time because CLG has had such control of the game. So this is that completely uncontested Baron that we talked about.
They're going to get called on going back on the wrong side of the court. They don't really have anything they own at this point. It's going to be a push down middle if they can really afford anything now.
At this point, it doesn't look like CLG is going back to Elixir up, which is what a lot of teams do sometimes after Baron. There's about 5,000 worth of unspent gold on CLG right now, but they're not wasting any time. They want to get to Game 3.
Chalister getting poked a little bit. That red buff onto Zuna may be able to do some good damage in this fight if they can start it to a kiting form, but I don't think it's going to happen. A kick out, they get the damage off the inhibitor, but Hotshot is just relentless here, putting himself in the middle. His team is not even as sure as he is, but he knows the damage he can take. They take it down, the crescendo on the back line. Nobody's going to follow up, though. That would have been an amazing engagement.
It's one of those situations where they just do not have the tools to fight.
Absolutely. It's coming down on to Mandatory Cloud. He goes down at the Seraph's Embrace. No Zhonya's there. The Requiem comes out, but it's only going to tickle. CLG looks to continue the fight. Psycho Sid is the only one to go in for his team. Bloodwater stands on the back side as he watches the Nexus turrets go down. Chat, they look to bring it to a Game 3.
32 minutes in now. CLG with the resounding comeback win. 16 kills to 4. Total domination almost once they had a bit of an early game lead. CLG just closed that one like pros.